One challenge faced by Year 9 and 10 students studying history is learning how to write a cohesive, intelligent and coherent historical essay. These essays require you to demonstrate your knowledge of the material. They also require you to include a lot of historical details and information. But not only that, they're also there to show that you can demonstrate your good writing skills. This is the first of a series of short instructional videos that will hopefully help you learn how to write better essays. One of the difficulties that a lot of students run into is that they think that writing an essay means exactly that. You just start writing the essay. Yes, you do at some stage need to write the essay, but what happens and what makes it very difficult and challenging is that they skip all the preparation and planning stages, which is vitally important, and that is something that you need to more or less get embedded in here in order to understand what it means to write an essay, what it means to study for one, what it means to research for one, and to plan for one. No matter how well written, how well argued, how well evidenced you think your essay is, if you've done nothing to address the question, then I don't see how you can expect to get a top mark. Think about the specific phrases or words that are used in the question and define them. Look them up if you have to. Usually at the beginning of your essay, you will actually spend a bit of time defining some of the phrases, some of the terms, some of the words in the question, and that's a good thing because it sets boundaries for your essay. If the question was, for example, to what extent was the First World War a total war, you have a couple of key phrases or terms there that right off the bat. First World War is one, total war is another. And then you could perhaps look at some of the other words that have been used, to what extent. So if you highlight those to begin with, at least you have clearly set some boundaries for yourself. It's a good idea always to do this before you actually do your research. And that way it can kind of frame your actual research process a little bit more. And that way you're not going to spend a lot of wasted time researching in areas that you don't need to. The second step in this preparing stage is for you to consider what the question is actually asking you. With a history essay, there are a number of different questions that might be asked, and as a result, that means that you're going to have different responses. Look at the essay question. What is it asking you? Is it asking you to explain or describe something? Is it asking you to interpret? Is it asking you to evaluate? Is it asking you to argue? Sometimes those particular terms or words won't be asked or won't be used in the question. You might need to read the question very carefully to see what it is asking. So if you go back to that original question that we looked at before, to what extent was World War I a total war, there's no mention of argue, evaluate, explain or describe. But if you look at the actual question itself, you can see that to what extent it's asking you for a little bit of an evaluation there. Was it a large extent or was it a little extent? So there is some sort of evaluation in that question. It will also imply that at some stage you're going to have to explain yourself. If you say that yes, it was a total war, then you'll need to explain the reasons for that or describe them. So you can see in that sort of question there are some evaluative aspects to it, there are some descriptive aspects to it. And you'll also perhaps need to argue along the way why you think that it was a total war or that it wasn't a total war. Okay, so the third step is to summarise your argument or your main idea. Once you've done a little bit of research, you'll find that an argument or a thesis statement is starting to formulate in your head. So it's a good idea in order to help shape or frame your overall essays, to just write down in just one or two sentences your main argument. What you might find as you are writing your essay, that your argument might change slightly. That's okay, but as long as you have something to refer back to, you won't get too far away from that key idea. So the main point and main idea of your essay should be clear enough that you can structure your whole essay around it. So for example, if we go back to that original question, to what extent was the First World War a total war? You could summarise your main argument for that question by saying the First World War was a total war because it mobilised the civilian populations not only on the battlefield but also on the home front. So there you have a nice, neat little argument that you can use to plan and structure your whole essay around. Okay, so you've evaluated the question, you have determined and considered what the question is asking of you, you've summarised your main idea or your main argument. The fourth step is now to make an essay plan. This is a great opportunity for you now to organise your notes and your research and to try and structure what your essay is going to look like. When you're drawing up your plan, you can start to assess now the quality of your research and maybe some of the different evidences that you have. There may be some that you think, yep, I'm going to use those. There may be others that you think, no, I'll keep those to the side. They may be useful later, but these ones are more important. Importantly, you need to determine which of those evidences are actually going to support your argument. If they support them very strongly, obviously they're the ones that you'd want to focus on. If they are not so strong, then they're perhaps the ones that you might need to turf. Another thing you might want to consider also is using some quotes that will help back up your argument, make it a little bit more persuasive. So always consider having a little bank of quotable material. And also when structuring your plan, you should have in your mind how you want it to flow. It's really important that there is a sense of flow in your essay. It's easy for the reader to see where you're going, so if you signpost it well, that's going to make it a little bit more of an enjoyable read and perhaps give you those marks that you're after. But importantly, also in your plan, show how that flow might work. Start with adding topic sentences, which we'll look at later, but in your plan make sure that it's coherent and that before you even start writing your essay, you know where you're going with it.